welcome to my channel. Well, this is going to be a rant and a ramble, and I have these knives here as a background, but I will be using them as an example also in some things. So this is not just a this is not a clickbait title. I try to make my titles accurate and informative and not clickbaity, I mean, you can make your titles pop out more. Like I might entitle this one 5 Pitfalls of Knife Collecting. But really, I could just put in there the pitfalls of knife collecting. I don't have to limit myself. But for some reason, the number 5 or numbering it pops. You gotta think about algorithms and ones and zeros. And computers love numbers and repetition and easy to pick out. So, anyways, I see you, algorithm. Anyways, let's start this off. All right. And I'm no super guru. It's just that I have fallen on for all of these pitfalls, and I can tell you what not to do on a lot of these things. I can't tell you what to do that's perfect, although I can tell you what's not to do. So I got an idea what would be better on some of these. So number 1, and I'm using like a little bulletin thing over here, but I'm not going to show it to you. Number 1 is eBay or online auctions. Okay, let's say you're going after something and it's no longer produced at the normal distributors. All right, so what you do is you go on to eBay and you're looking around, and this can be addictive too, online auctions. But you're looking around and you find somebody offering a knife that you like. Let me get an old one in here because most of these are all new. I want to get my own. All right, here I go. Let's say this is an inexpensive saber made in Japan, bone handles and everything. Nothing super special about it except that it's special to you. And you find one on eBay for, let's say, $5. An online bid, all right, for $5. The starting bid is $5. You got to look at the shipping. There's one thing right there. Sometimes you can look at it and go, wow, that's really good. And you kind of miss out on the shipping part of it, which is, sometimes they charge more for the shipping than what they're asking for the knife. And you have to factor that in. But anyways, you're focused on, completing this purchase. You found it. Nobody else seems to have found it. It's like they have a number of days before it expires and everything. And if you're the very first one in there, just be cautious because maybe nobody's seen it yet. But if it's like 3 or 4 days in and nobody's bid on it, you not necessarily are the first person to discover that thing. So you want to look a little bit closer at it and see, are there any pictures of the secondary blade? A lot of times it's just showing the primary blade, but they're not showing the secondary blade. Secondary blade could be, it's maybe supposed to be like this, and it may be snapped off right here, or it may be ground down so much that it's a pin blade. But even maybe not the kick, but way up here, it's thinned out, because the only way they knew how to sharpen a knife was on a bench grinder. And a bench grinder is fine if you're being light and you know what you're doing and it's not a high grit stone, but most bench grinders take off a lot of metal quickly. They're designed to take off a lot of metal quickly, and it's up to you, the operator, to know what you're doing. And a lot of these people, they already don't know how to sharpen a knife if they're on a bench grinder, is my opinion. Now, there are some times, like when you're making a knife and you're putting in the grinds and stuff, yeah, you need a bench grinder. Still, I'm just saying you're going to run into a lot of this stuff because I saw it in my life. That's how people would sharpen knives sometimes, they get up there. Most people would use a whetstone, but, some people would use a bench grinder and then regret it and put it up on eBay. So that's one thing. There's so many perils. I could just talk for hours on the problem with eBay's perspective. Also make sure that you know what you're looking at, because a knife, like this. Wow, look at the size of that knife. If you didn't have my fingers and hands in the background, you could think, man, that's about like, what, a 5-inch knife closed or something? That's a huge knife. I've fallen for that, looking for rare, collectible, Rough Rider type of things, just when I got on eBay. And I liked Rough Rider so much, I bought most of the patterns that I could find available at Smoky, and then I started looking for eBay and other places for, secondary market. So that's one of them. The other one is the last second bid. Most people know about this one. But you think that you're fine, and then all of a sudden somebody at the last second outbids you. You had an upper limit, and this is another thing that here are some tactics, all right, that I used on eBay, and I don't really use eBay anymore, but I did this mostly on lock purchases. This is antique locks and stuff like this. It applies to anything that you're doing where there's an auction, all right. First is set your upper limit and be realistic about it in your mind. Tell yourself, at most, this is the most I'm willing to pay for this knife. Don't violate that, because that's one of the traps that you're going to get into online bidding, is you're going to be getting into a bid with somebody who's beating you just by a little bit. And if you just raise it up, it's like gambling, I call, I bid, I see that, and I raise you, another, and that's exactly what's going on. And who's benefiting from this? Well, the person, the online auction, gets some money off of it, and the seller, of course, wants to get the most money he wants out of it, and it's a war, but it's gotten personal between you and the other person. Like, oh yeah, I got more money than you, punk. Watch this, and you wind up paying more money than you should have for something that will probably show up in a day or a week or so in much better condition for a lot less money, and it goes with like nobody bidding on it, or it's even the buy now type of price is less than what you paid for that, and it's in better condition. All right, so that's one of the things. There are many of them, I mean, that's just some of the things. You really have to know about what you're doing, so that's one thing. If you tell yourself, I'm not going to pay more than $7 for this knife. Yeah, they asked for $5, and I put my upper limit as $6, but I'm giving myself a little leeway in case I really want it. I got my... However you do it, as long as you don't violate that and it works, you'll be all right. But if you start violating your own principles... I don't know why you're even writing principles down or you're trying to do them if you won't listen to yourself, And I'm not telling you what to do. It's whatever you come up with, whatever system you come up with. So that's one of them. Just be aware of eBay and online auctions, all right? The other one, all these fall in together, is the pitfall of, I've got to complete the collection no matter what. You know how that goes, You're sitting there, and let's say you're collecting a series. I got to find a good, typical... All right, here we go. Backwoods Bushcrafter by Rough Rider. You like it because of the copper, the already blackened, blade, the jigged bone, There's just something about it that you like, and you decide, what, I'm going to collect the whole series. Well, if it just came out, that's the best time to get these series. If you look at one of them and you say, and you're the type that want to collect the whole series, that's the jigsaw puzzle effect going on. When you get a jigsaw puzzle and it shows you, all right, this is the complete pattern of the picture. Here's this lovely little couple on the beach, and they're sitting there and they're enjoying their margaritas while out in the lake, out in the ocean. A shark is coming up to their little beloved Jimmy. Maybe it's not that sinister, but still. I don't know where I got it. I'm into the shark scene now, and what are they going to do about Jimmy? And are they really going to drink that margarita? Anyways, you get so involved in your series and everything that you just got to... You let reason overwhelm you, and you wind up, again, either paying more or being frustrated. Now, sometimes it's kind of fun, it's kind of fun to not have the complete series in the collection because then it's a challenge, you know. You can buy your way out of a lot of this stuff, you know. You just, oh, they don't do that. They want $700 for that, no matter what. Like I said, see, that's the trap of I've got to complete the collection no matter what. I'm kind of being extreme, but that's an example, you know. The knife was really originally worth $15. And yeah, they don't make them anymore. And the market kind of dried up right now, but that doesn't mean that it's always dried up. There's always estate sales. There's always people finding stuff in the drawer. There's always people that had collections that just decide to thin them out. And every once in a while, they dump them up there. So it's kind of a continual thing. And just like gambling, the way they lure you in is with the random reward trick. Occasionally, you're going to get a really good deal. And it's going to encourage you enough that, you know what, hey, maybe, you know, I should check that more often. And you think you're a pro after a while. So, I mean, that's just one thing. Don't delude yourself into thinking that you know everything about everything, or that you gotta complete the collection no matter what. That's another pitfall. And then here's another big one. None of this is, like I said, it's rocket science or anything. I'm just telling you some of the pitfalls that maybe some people are not aware of. Your knife budget or lack of. Putting knives on credit. And that includes, except even the only problem with Sezzle or any of these other no interest payment ones is you better make sure that you have that money set aside for when it comes out. Because I don't know exactly what happens, but I just make sure it comes out automatically when you set up this. You put a credit card in, and it's 4 payments, and you better look at those dates, because it may not be, it's just 4 monthly payments. They might have just said 4 payments, and you just thought you read 4 monthly, So that's one of them. Is, if to me, a knife collecting hobby is optional as far as, like, if it comes down to survival. And survival is making sure you got your housing taken care of. Make sure you got your however you get your money. Like if you rely on a car to get back and forth to work, make sure you got the money for that covered, every month. And you have to cover things that are necessities first before you get into optional stuff. I know a lot of this is basic, but you can kind of get carried away sometimes, with saying, like, wow, man, this isn't going to be here forever. If I just put this on this credit card, I'll be able to get this. And then you start looking at how much you're actually paying for that knife. It's not really a deal if you're putting on a credit card where they're charging you 25% interest, and you forget about it, and you leave it there along with everything else. And yeah, the credit card trap, they say America's in record credit card debt right now. So I'm not speaking to, just like out in the air to the random person. There's a lot of people that do this. And I'm just saying, credit cards in general, you shouldn't do if at all possible. You can live off of debit cards, where the only way you get stuff, it's still looked at forth as a credit card, but the only way you get stuff is if you've got the money in there already. It's kind of like a budget. All right, so we're enough of that. That's the knife budget. All right, here's another one. We're on number 4 now. Is it 4? It's 4. Storage and organization. Well, as you can see, I failed on that one. I failed on the storage. There are plenty of options I can do. I semi-store stuff. I've got a combination of different knife rolls and storage cases, even fishing tackle boxes and everything. Many of them donated to me, and that helps. But as far as like with organization, it's also, some people are very good at keeping track of all of their knife records, how much they paid for them, when they paid for it, where they got it, if they disposed of it, where it's even located in their house. All these things, are really important if you do them, and if you don't, I'll tell you, you can just watch my channel and you'll find out what happens when knives go missing. Well, they go missing a lot of times because they're buried. Oh, there it is. Maybe I was looking for oh, there it is. I wonder where that happened. Because I put it up here, and then other things got put on top of it. Yeah. So like I said, I can give you negative examples of stuff, and that's one of them. There's knife storage and organization. We won't go deeply into that because I try to get into only things I know a lot about, and I can tell you what doesn't work for me, and that is, you think a knife is in a certain place, but you've moved it. And you've moved it for whatever reason. In my case, maybe I'm making a video on bone handle knives or whittlers or whatever, and I stack this up with a bunch of other ones. And then I don't do that video, or I do, but I don't put them back where they were the last time. And then that can lead you buying the same knife again that you've already got, or because you're stubborn and you're not going to do that, never having that knife again because you don't know where you put it. So that's why I say storage and organization. All right, so we're getting down to the last one because I've only been running my mouth. It's pretty good. Usually I run my mouth a lot longer than this. You can speed this up, faster speed if you want, and everything. That might help sometimes, but I'm talking fairly fast for myself on this one. The last one is losing sight of your original reason for collecting. All right, somebody might tell you that the knives that you're getting, all the knives that you've got and everything, are junk. And you know why they're junk? Because they think your knives are junk. And if you do it and they kind of give you a reason, they'll say, well, the steel is junk, or I only collect this type of knife. I only collect for this reason. And it's like, yeah, all those things are the reasons why you collect knives. I'm happy for you, really. That's not sarcasm. I'm happy for you. Don't try to tell me that I have to collect knives because of that, or that I'm inferior because I'm not collecting the exact same knife that you are, or I don't like the exact same steel that you do, or you've tried that knife before and it's junk and only idiots would buy those knives. Well, you know what? I'm more likely to find that out on my own than to listen to somebody that's talking to me like that. You can only idiots buy those knives. If you really want the best ones, you have to buy. Now, I'm just using this as an example. I like the American old-timers, the earlier ones, just because the Chinese ones are not built the same. They're not built as well, in my opinion. But I could be wrong. Maybe the Chinese ones will catch up to it and everything. And if you love the Chinese ones, I got no issues with it. Like I said, this is my personal opinion. I have a collection of these ones that are made in China. They're perfectly fine. But if you compare them to the original ones that were made in America, that's not always the case. We don't always make, America, just because it's American, doesn't always make better knives than, say, Japan, Germany. Oh, here comes sacrilege. Even China. It all depends on the knife quality. I don't care about the politics. All right, so your original reason for collecting was you liked Rough Rider knives. Let's say Rough Rider knives. You like Rough Rider knives. And a lot of forums told you that, if you like traditional knives, this is just a jumping stone. This is just a gateway. You really need to go to GEC if you want to, get the ultimate knife. And you can just fill in the blank what your favorite one is. GEC, Case, Old Queen, Shatton Morgan, whatever it is, they'll tell you that that's if you really want to be a true knife collector. No true knife collector would collect novelty knives or something. What is wrong with you? Now, those were throwaway knives for kids, and that they're made badly and out of cheap steel, and they don't hold an edge, and you can't baton for crap with them. How could you possibly want that? you know? And you see what's happening there. Someone is trying to influence you to be like them. And that's why we have so many different knives and so many different steels and so many different knife channels, is because there is no perfect answer for what is the best knife in the world, or the best steel in the world, or the best knife for the best application and everything. It depends. It all depends on, there's so many options out there. It's almost too many options on knives now. That used to be what was so easy about collecting, is you got whatever you could afford, which was not a lot of money, and you got whatever was available, and you used it, and because it was in your childhood, and you like that type of knife. Some people may tell you it doesn't have a half stop on. It's not perfect because it doesn't have a half stop. Well, again, that's someone's opinion. It's easy to make a right angle on a knife, really. You want to make a half stop on a knife? Take the tang right here, when it's rounded, and put it on a grinder. This is the blade, and make it flat. Just make it evenly flat, all right? And you got to watch your bevels and everything. If you do it just right, it'll just lock right in. Wow, that's so great. And then it just snaps. You saw that one snap? You see that? That's telling you that the mainspring is still strong enough. That's all that really matters. The half stop is good and everything, but that doesn't necessarily mean that it's a quality knife. It just means that somebody knew how to make a 90-degree angle in metal. Sorry. You call that craftsmanship? It's actually, a lot of times, if you're doing this by hand, it's harder to make a round thing go evenly round than it is to make something go flat. Flat, angular, flat, easy. Round, yeah, if you got CNC or you got a steady hand, yeah. So that's why the original wheel in caveman times was a square one, and why it didn't catch on. If there's some way we could modify this, and the edges eventually started rounding off, and they say, hey, we just made this thing round. I don't know. That's what the dinosaurs told me, and they were here before humans, so I think they would know. All right, so anyways, yeah, there you go. That's my 5 pitfalls of knife collecting. There are many more, and I might continue on this, but I mean, that's just one of the ones I wanted to show you. Is like, if you're into something. Like if somebody tells you the best bush crafting knife in the world is blah, blah, blah for $350, but you've got to have that if you want to be a real bush crafter. And then you say, well, my Mora seems to work very well for what I want to do out in the bush. These other ones are nice, and yeah, they have all these other things, but my Mora, and they're going, a lot of people nowadays will not slam you for a Mora, but that's just one of those price things, when they look at it and they say, no knife can be good unless it goes beyond a certain value. That's another one where you'll get caught up into, where people will tell you, the budget knives are just stepping stones. Kind of like what I was telling you, that they'll tell you that you need to get up, if you really want to collect traditional knives, that are made better and made well, then you need to go back to antique knives, or you need to go for these manufacturers, but you need to drop those Chinese Rough Riders. And that's why I made some, a video. One of my most popular ones is why I don't think Rough Rider knives are junk. Is if you look at the reason behind the argument of most people, it actually comes down to anti-Chinese government bias. All right? So, deal with that some other way, because that doesn't have any issue with me. Now, the whole world doesn't like China, and their economy's crashing and everything. Look, I'm still running my mouth. I'm going to make it 30 minutes. The thing is that most people are going away from China, and it's changing. So the days of the cheap Chinese knives are over, I think. Rapidly coming to an end. Rapidly. You blink and they're going to be gone. But it doesn't mean you won't be able to find inexpensive knives somewhere else, And it doesn't mean that those countries have labor and government issues too. But it won't be Chinese. and the the haters of Chinese knives will be happy. Me, one way or another, I don't care. I enjoy having inexpensive knives. I don't want to have to pay $60 or $70 for a knife that I used to pay $15 for, just because of politics or whatever. I don't like that. You know. But anyways, thanks for watching and have a nice day.